Today, we're going to be talking about how Travis Etienne compares to Alvin Kamara, and we're going to be doing that right now. What's going on, guys? This is Bruce Matson, your host of the show, Metro Scout Fantasy Football. And this is a show where I talk about Dynasty, Redraft, NFL Draft, all things football, fantasy football related. If that's something you're into, hit that subscribe button, ring me a bell, tell your homies. But we got a great show for you today. We're going to be talking about Travis Etienne and how he compares to Alvin Kamara. And this goes along with our comparison series. We've been doing it mostly on quarterbacks lately. We've done one with Najee Harris. Just check the archives. You can catch those up on whenever you feel like it. But today we're going to talk about Travis Etienne and Alvin Kamara. The reason why I'm doing this series is just highlight how these players kind of look like and just give you a picture of what these rookies could look like at the NFL level. This is not to be considered a one-for-one comparison at all. But there are similar traits with every one of these players that I've picked to compare to. And I've been trying to use current NFL players. That way you have a recent player to look at. Alvin Kamara and Travis Etienne, they do have some similarities. The main similarity with their games is their receiving ability. Travis Etienne's caught 102 passes during his career at Clemson, and as we all know, Alvin Kamara is one of the best receiving backs in the NFL, and what makes their receiving game similar is their burst. Alvin Kamara has a 94th percentile burst score. He pretty much leaps out the building, and you see that immediately on tape. Once he gets the ball in the open field, he eats up chunks of yards. Same thing when you watch tape on Travis Etienne. Eats up chunks of yards. If we had the combine, Travis Etienne would have easily a 90th percentile burst score, probably push 99 percentile. He executes about as much burst as you've ever seen from a running back. And then on top of that, he's got the speed. He's got more speed than the Kamara. So once he hits that open field and there's space, he's gone. That is different. Alvin Kamara, though, if he's got space, he's more than likely gone. So they're very comparable in those standpoints. Size makes it different. Alvin Kamara is listed around 215. Travis Etienne's around 205. However, we don't have an exact or true weight on Travis Etienne. And plus, weight varies for players. Kamara coming out or during his tenure at Tennessee, he was listed around like 194, and then he eventually weighed in at 215. Travis Etienne could be bigger or lighter. We don't know. These are just listed weights for him. So he could be 195, 190. Only thing I can tell you about Travis Etienne, he's slender. He is more slender than Kamara, and that matters because at the point of contact, when it comes to breaking the tackle, getting through arm tackles and stuff, that's less inertia at the point of contact because he has less mass on him. However, Travis Etienne has plenty of burst, so he will create plenty of inertia to get through those arm tackles, break tackles, and all that. Both running backs are not considered 3-down, 30-touch-a-game grinders. Travis Etienne is best probably around 15, 18, 20 touches a game, where that's where Alvin Kamara excels at too. Maximizes his touches and does not grind between the tackles, gets a lot of his stuff in the passing game. Could be very similar to Travis Etienne, and they both play very similar, and mainly how these guys are very similar is the receiving game, the burst, the long speed. Travis Etienne's faster, Alvin Kamara's bigger. Travis Etienne's more productive in college. Alvin Kamara wasn't. A lot of people right now are down on Travis Etienne, or at least some people, because they don't see him as a 3-down workhorse. They don't see him running between the tackles. There's some tape of him in the 2020 season that is not immaculate. I'm going to put it that way, because he was put up on a pretty high pedestal going into this year, and it did not live up to those very lofty expectations. But he didn't put out bad tape this year either. And with him pegged as more as a guy who could get 15, 20 touches a game, maybe low 20s. Travis Etienne could hold a similar workload as Kamara. And think about Kamara coming out of college. He wasn't considered a 3-down back either by a lot of people. If anything, he drew similar scrutiny about how he took contact, about how he saw the holes and stuff, and that burnt a lot of people. There's receipts on that on Twitter. Travis Etienne could very likely burn a lot of people because he burns defenses with his speed, he burns defenses with his burst, just like Alvin Kamara does. Travis Etienne can run between the tackles. It's just not something he should be doing on a full-time basis, just like Kamara. Kamara can hold it down for a good bit, but he's worked most of his career with another running back taking carries with him in the backfield. I can definitely see that with Travis Etienne. These guys are not the same player. I do not forecast a similar career for Travis Etienne because that's just very hard and that's a very lofty expectation, but Travis Etienne's been living on lofty expectations his entire collegiate career. Kamara has a little bit more weight on him to where he can take more of a pounding, where Travis Etienne doesn't. That's the big difference for me. That could be the stopping point from Travis Etienne from becoming Kamara. The way Travis Etienne could be productive is speed, burst, getting touches in the open field, catching check downs. If the combine happened this year, Travis Etienne would be running low 4.4s or in the 4.3s, 90th percentile burst, decent agility. I don't think agility would be his strong suit, but I think he would score all right. I think he'd score 50th percentile or 60th percentile and be fine. But he'd be elite in burst, elite in speed. That would cause the stock to go up. Alvin Kamara does not have elite level speed. He ran a 4.5, 5.40, 4.54, whatever it is. But he is a 94th percentile burst score. So that burst allows him to eat up a lot of yards initially and get to top end speed quick. And he gets the ball a lot of times in the open field, makes him dangerous. If Travis Etienne gets a similar look, similar workload, gets in a lot of check downs, he could lead to a similar situation. More than likely, his NFL team's not going to look for him to carry the load 30 times a game. They probably are going to use him to a similar concept as what New Orleans has been doing with Kamara. That's just the smart thing to do. You don't look at this guy, this 205, 200, 195-pound back and think, man, I'm going to grind this guy out on the goal line. Man, I'm going to put him out there on 3rd and short. I'm going to give him 30 carries up the gut. No. You look at this guy, you see that speed, that burst, a little bit of wiggle he's got, the patience, his vision, and you're like, I'm going to get him the ball as much as I can in open space. I'm going to get him some check downs. I'm going to use him in the passing game. I look at him as like a scat back plus because you can use him between the tackles. You can use him as a primary rusher. You can use him in the passing game. You just don't want to use him as for a 30-plus touch workload because that could not end well. And same thing, limiting the touch count for Kamara throughout his career. You just want to preserve these types of backs, so it makes sense. They're not the same back. They're not the exact same. They're not carbon copies, but they do have a lot of similar traits. And Travis Etienne, with that burst and speed, if he's in the right situation where he's used, where he can get the touches in space, he could be a top 5 back like Kamara. It's easy to see how that path to success could happen. It's also easy to see how that path of success could just not be there if he doesn't get the right opportunities. If he doesn't have a quarterback that's willing to check down a lot, if he's not used much in the passing game, if they try and cram that square peg in the round hole and use him as between the tackles grinders, because coaches do that type of stuff. And it could be a messy situation. He does not have as much size as Kamara. That is the big difference. And they are different players. Travis Etienne's very talented in his own right. Very patient runner, good vision. It's that elite level burst and that long speed that makes him a dangerous weapon. And if used right, he could be lethal for his NFL team, just like Kamara. I want to thank you guys for watching the show. I'll be rolling out some more player profiles, more Dynasty, more fantasy football content. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you ring that bell. Help me out on that algorithm, son. And I'll catch you next time.